more.
You can't dwell.
Hey, look at that. BlUr, give him the good luck. Kangaroo luck. GLKL, my favorite way to start a game. We do have Dignitas Sjow. It looks like Sjow starting off with a Turgubi, which is probably Swedish for kangaroo luck. He is spawning in the left position as the blue Terran, and in the north we have BlUr spawning as the red Terran.
And TVT, this is actually the first one that we've seen casted, but don't forget that Starlight versus This Is Jimmy was a TVT matchup. So this is the first time we're going to actually see it displayed here on the stream. Of course, we've got a lot of new styles of Terran, and what?
Look at the APM. Normally this is where people are spamming, trying to look as impressive as possible, trying to warm up, but we have 41 for BlUr, who is a over 3,100 point Terran player, against Dignitas Sjow, who's at 61 APM, who is also, I believe, over a 3,100 point Terran. He might even actually be a 3,300 point Terran. He is really beastly. But BlUr, ooh, interestingly, going for the gas before Barracks play.
You know, being a pretty average player day, it actually makes me feel good to see that kind of APM. Like, you know, just to know that I can get better and not necessarily have to light my keyboard on fire with my fingers.
That's right. Having a flaming keyboard is not necessarily the key to success. Is having a sharp mind.
Yes.
That's a quote. That'll be in a book someday. You can
someday.
buy it when you're on your way out at a grocery store.
So I would expect pretty much similar openings as we're already seeing here, going away from the APN now. Barracks going down for both. We do have a little bit later Barracks for BlUr. And BlUr, of course, from VT. And Dignitas really starting to make a name for themselves in StarCraft 2. They've been around for a very long time. They've seen many, many competitive games. And traditionally existing of Europeans like Sjow is here today.
Yeah, now, one thing that is very important to note about BlUr's very fast refinery time, you notice that right when his barracks finishes, he can immediately start a factory. So even though his orbital command is going to be delayed just a little bit, he's going to have significantly faster tech coming out. The map is Lost Temple. Players love tanks on this map for two reasons. First of all, ledges galore. Look at one ledge here. There's another high ground cliff ledge. There's even ledges built into the center of the map. But second of all, if you can control one of these Xel'Naga watchtowers with a huge group of tanks, you can control much of the game, and it looks like BlUr is getting a very fast tech lab along with his barracks, but no second gas yet from either player. Oh, Sjow throwing his down right now. Now,
we've talked a little bit about the fact that Sjow really likes to use those Hellions, you know, whether to scout or harass. But there's a part of me, of course, being a TVT nub, that would say maybe that unit's not going to be as good to come out here in a TVT matchup. What would your thoughts be on that? How would you...
Well, honestly, this is a style of play that BlUr's doing that I originally saw Greetorp do a lot of. You open up with a lot of Marines, Hellions, and a Banshee, and when you try to get into a battle with your opponent, you just try to trade Marine numbers. That's the general technique that you're going for. If you can kill off all his Marines with your Hellions and your Banshee, that means that your opponent really can't be aggressive against you early on. So this is, in other words, a very fast way of getting an expansion up. We see BlUr also adding on a lot of Marines and Hellions. There is the Banshee popping out right now. Extremely well-timed opening thus far.
Yep, Starport is only 50% done over on the side of Dignitas Sjow, so we'll have to see what he's going to do with it. Also see he's got this Marine placement over here, possibly to block Reaper that could come in there, or something else that might show its ugly face. But keep in mind, Sjow does have command of the Xel'Naga Tower, and that's always going to be big right here. Couple Hellions moving out, though, might be able to eject this one Marine and then move forward to the base.
This is going to be quite confusing for Sjow, because generally players don't get that many Hellions early on, except for players like DeMuslim. More than happy to use a lot of just regular old Hellions, but probably Sjow's thinking that a Blue Flame Hellion push is coming up. Probably that's the most likely, so he's going to be playing a little bit more defensively minded. But look, here comes the big push from BlUr, and he can even afford a command center soon, but wow, not going for it. Instead, just going for the big 1-1-1 push, Banshee Hellion Marine.
Wow, this looks like it could be really devastating right here. Also, the Hellion of Sjow went off to scout, so he doesn't have that around. More Hellions coming up, completely roasting those Marines, and now making the way into the main base of Sjow.
And look at how fast he's able to blast through those Marine numbers, and oh, looks like no tanks anywhere in sight. So it does mean that he will have free reign on these SCVs. Look at BlUr demolishing his opponent with this early rush. There's almost no SCVs left. One lone Marauder left, but it looks like he is going to ignore it. He's going to go for the SCVs. This Banshee has 11 kills right now. Going back to BlUr's base, just getting more barracks, pulling back, going to play defensively because as of right now, he has an absolutely commanding lead.
Oh, I mean, 6 workers to 22 workers as BlUr continues to just hack away at his opponent. He's going to go ahead and send out these 2 Hellions. Finally, a Viking pops out to take care of this, but not before this Banshee gets 17, possibly 18 kills. There it is, some additional damage. 4 Harvesters for Sjow. Now, tell me, why is that not instant GG?
Well, in this game, there's the possibility for a lot of little sneak-in action with like a cloaked Banshee doing a lot of counter-aggression if your opponent makes mistakes. But as we're seeing, BlUr is playing this off perfectly. Look at him, getting a missile turret. Probably doesn't even need that missile turret. I mean, his opponent has, what, like a handful of workers? It's like a 0% chance that this is the most necessary thing ever, but BlUr is saying, alright, that's fine, I'm still going to build it, so that way I have a 100% chance of winning later on. I just need to not lose right now.
Well, right now he only has mineral income at this point in the game. He is going to return that Banshee back to base. Viking is out for BlUr, so he's probably aware of that. It was hiding up in the corner, and now it is back out. You can see that army for Sjow. It is not as impressive as what I think we have over here for his opponent. BlUr, tank is out now, still has a very healthy Banshee, a Viking out, several Marines, and a couple of Hellions as well. So it's looking to be really ahead of the game. BlUr is going to have to get his Viking out of there, and it gets away just barely. There's a couple more out there as well. So I would be shocked to see someone recover from having 3 workers. It just seems like a huge economic disadvantage for too long.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that this would be an incredible comeback if Sjow could pull it off. And oh man, look at that, accidentally running that 1 Viking into his opponent's 2 Vikings, but luckily spotting the medevac. But we are just seeing a perfect follow-up by BlUr. He is getting the Raven out right now. Probably not extremely necessary, but wants to play as safe as possible. We'll be investing in an expansion and a push shortly. Everything is resting on Zhow's ability to do damage with this 1 push. But look at how tight and locked down BlUr is. And
there's one of those little cliffs that you talked about and are so right about. Here we go. We've got a couple of Vikings about to engage. It does look like BlUr will be able to take those Vikings out for Sjow. He's got to now work on that Banshee. Banshee has gotten quite a few kills, but not enough, I think, to make a difference. You still look there. Still got an incredible worker count, over double what his opponent has, and he handled that very nicely.
And BlUr didn't forget a single SCV during that entire bout, you know. I will say that BlUr really was winning this on a big pushed build order surprise on his opponent. Zjow playing as well as he can, but just opening up in a way that was so easily exploitable by what BlUr did. But it's this follow-up by BlUr that is so impressing me. Backed off for a very long time, and look at this very slow, methodical push, sieging up way far back. Gently advancing forward, going to siege this tank up, going to leapfrog, not going to take any risks, and it might be impossible for Sjow to hold this off. Oh, this looks so bad. Good Marine coverage here on the barracks. It goes down. No more infantry units for Sjow. He's probably going to get the starport first. Great placement of those siege tanks, now moving them up a little bit. Not going to totally commit to this. Let his opponent come to him. Let him take that extra siege splash, and I think that this is pretty much it. Wow, there is a good game. That is a result that not a lot of people expected. Almost certainly, BlUr would have been able to take off at least 1 game against Sjow, but coming right out the gate with a super convincing win. Like, really convincing. Yeah, like a very one-sided game. Especially after we just saw Sjow pretty much dismantle Og in the previous matchup. Granted, TVP, a little bit different, but yeah, give the hats off to BlUr taking game number 1. Very, very impressive. And now we're going to find out from Sjow what game number 2